Akbar and Birbal are very famous personalities in ancient India. Akbar was a king and Birbal was his advisor who was very intelligent. Akbar liked to test Birbal's intelligence time to time. So one day when they were in a park or in a garden, Akbar drew a line on the ground and asked Birbal if he can make the line shorter. But the challenge was Birbal cannot touch the line or do anything with the line. Birbal thought for a moment, but in a jiffy, he just drew another line on the ground which was bigger than the line that Akbar drew. And eventually Birbal passed his challenge. Akbar was happy. What do you learn from this? No single entity or no single parameter is bigger or smaller by itself, not inherently. Only if you compare two things, then only you can say one thing is bigger and other thing is smaller. Even then, no thing is permanently bigger or permanently smaller. You can even draw a bigger line than what Birbal drew and make the line he drew smaller. And all this is possible because we can compare, and whatever comparison we make is in the form of ratio. And when we study ratios, we have to study proportion of the things and also the variation. And in this video, we are going to study ratio, proportion and variation. So let us start. Let's say L1 was the length of the line that Akbar drew and L2 was the length of the line that Birbal drew. The ratio of line L1 and L2 is defined by L1 colon L2, which is given as L1 divided by L2. If the length of line L1 was, let's say, 5 centimeters and length of line L2 was, say, 10 centimeters, then we say the ratio is 1 over 2 because 5 over 10 is 1 over 2. Another very important thing is you can only compare the quantities which have same units like centimeters. So you can only compare the lengths together, you can compare weights together, you can compare intensity together, and you can compare all the same quantities. Can you compare two human beings? Yes, you can, but you shouldn't. Right. What about proportion? Whenever two ratios are equal, we say that they are in proportion. Let's say there are two lines L1 and L2 which are, let's say, 5 centimeter to 10 centimeters. And there is another pair of lines L3 and L4 and the ratio of them is 20 centimeters and 40 centimeters. Because 5 divided by 10 is equal to 20 divided by 40, you can see that these two ratios are equal because if I multiply the numerator and denominator here by 4, I get the same thing. So I say this ratio and this ratio are in proportion, and when they are in proportion they can be written as 5 is to 10 is in proportion with 20 is to 40. So let's come back to the proportion again. So if I have two pair of ratios which are in proportion, let's say A is to B is equal to C is to D, I can write A divided by B equals to C divided by D, and therefore I can write AD equals to BC, and this is how I can define the proportion. When two ratios are equal, AB and CD, then I can write AD equals to BC. What is variation? Variation discusses about how things vary in terms of each other. Let's say X increases when Y increases, and in that case we say X is directly proportional to Y, and you can write X divided by Y as some constant K. So whenever you say X is directly proportional to Y, you can write X over Y equals to some constant K. If X it decreases when Y increases, you say X and Y are inversely proportional, alright, and then you can write X times Y equals to some constant. This is the definition of two things being inversely proportional. Let's discuss one more thing that is associated with ratios. Let's say I have some ratio A over B equals to C over D equals to E over F. There is something called theorem of equal ratios, which allows us to add all the numerators and add all the denominators together and still equate it to the original ratios. So I can write A plus C plus E divided by B plus D plus F. So this is what the common ratio says. There is another thing named as componendo and dividendo that is true for ratios. Let's see what is that. So whenever you have certain ratio like A over B equals to C over D, you can write A plus B divided by A minus B equals to C plus D divided by C minus D, which is known as componendo dividendo. Componendo means adding in the numerator and dividendo means subtracting in the denominator. So remember that. There are many applications of componendo dividendo and we can simplify many algebraic expressions using componendo and dividendo. If you understand this much, we can straight away jump into problems and solve some so that the concepts are clear. If you as a viewer of Ed Sharpener haven't yet got the chance to subscribe to the channel, please go to the red subscribe button and click subscribe. And if you would like to receive all the notifications of the videos that we put, click the bell icon and select all. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide and see one of the problems. The problem is three investors A, B and C invest into a business in the ratio of 10,000 is to 30,000 is to 70,000. If the profit they earned in the first week was 6,600 rupees, then what is the share of investor B in this profit? Because I intuitively can say whatever you invest in that particular proportion you'll get your profit. So I first need to find out the simplistic ratio of A is to B is to C. So let's say A is to B is to C is 10,000 is to 30,000 is to 70,000. And I can divide all the things by 10,000 and I get 1 is to 3 is to 7. So that is how my ratio can be defined for A is to B is to C. The next thing I do is, this is the ratio in which I have invested and thus this must be the ratio in which I'll earn my profit. So whatever profit that I earned is the addition of all the profits that they earn. Let's say the profit earned by A is X, then the profit earned by B must be 3X and therefore the profit earned by C should be 7X. All the profit is X plus 3X plus 7X, that is equal to 11X. That means whatever profit that I've earned is equal to 11x and that is equal to 6600 rupees. And thus you can find out x as 6600 divided by 11 and you get 600 rupees. So the profit earned by A is 600 rupees. And what is the profit earned by B? So which is 3x, and that is why 3x is nothing but 3x equals to 1800 rupees. This is how you can do this problem. So the key is to multiply the ratio that I have by x and then I can find out sum of the ratios and then I can equate it to whatever total of the profit that I have. I hope you understand. Let's go into the second problem and see what is that. So this is another problem. Write down the ratio of A is to B equal to 2 is to 5 and B is to C as 3 is to 4 as A is to B is to C. Now this is a very good problem. Let's write down A is to B first and then we'll write B is to C. The ratio of A is to B is 2 is to 5 and the ratio of B is to C is 3 is to 4. Note how I have written the ratios right beneath each other. In order to find A is to B is to C, what we do is we multiply 2 and 3 and write down right beneath A, which is 6. Then we multiply 5 and 3, which is 15, and we write right beneath B. And the last step, we multiply 5 and 4 and write right beneath C. So A is to B is to C is basically 6 is to 15 is to 20. So this is how you can find the ratio of A is to B is to C from the given ratios of A and B and given ratios of B and C. Let's look at another problem. In this problem, we have the variation. If A and B are inversely proportional to each other, if B equals to 8 when A equals to 100, find out the value of B when A equals to 400. Because we know that A and B are inversely proportional, we know that the multiplication of A and B is going to be constant always. So I can write A times B equals to K. Now I have a value of A and B for one of the instances and therefore I can find the value of K. Let's put A and B. So when B equals to 8, I have my A equals to 100. So K must be 800. Now for whatever values of A and B, the value of K is going to be constant. So if I change my value of A as 400, so let's write 400, and whatever value of B that time must give me multiplication as 800. And therefore my B should be 800 divided by 400, which is 2. And this is how you can solve the problem of inverse proportion. Remember, for inverse proportion, A times B equals to K. Just suppose if A and B were in direct proportion, you could have written A divided by B equals to K. And then you need to find out the value of K. And again, you can always find out the required values of A and B. I hope you understand. Let's move to the next problem. And I have written percentage of X and percentage of Y. So 54% of X is equal to 32% of Y. Find out the ratio 2X is to 3Y. Let us first write down what do we need. We need 2x divided by 3y, which is basically 2 over 3 times x over y. I know that 0.54 times of x, 0.54 is nothing but 54%. 0.54 times of x is equal to 0.32 times of y. Then what is x over y? So if I divide by y on both the sides, I get xy into 0.54 equals to 0.32, and xy is equal to 0.32 divided by 0.54, which is also equal to 32 divided by 54. I need 2x over 3y, so I can write 2 over 3 times 32 over 54, and that gives me 64 divided by 162. You can simply divide by 2 on both the sides and you'll get 32 divided by 81, and that's the required ratio of 2x is to 3y. I hope you understand this problem as well. Let us move ahead and see the last problem. We have if a is to 2 equals to b is to 5 equals to c is to 9, and we need to find out a plus b minus c by b. Let us first write down all the ratios. So we have a over 2 equals to b over 5 equals to c over 9. By the theorem of equal ratios, I can add up a and b and add up the 2 and 5. So I can write it is equal to a plus b over 7. Then I can subtract c and subtract 9 from the denominator, and I can write a plus b minus c divided by minus 2. So all these ratios are also equal to a plus b minus c divided by minus 2, right? I need a plus b minus c divided by b. So what I can do is I can equate this ratio with this ratio here, because I need b in my expression in the denominator. So what I have is a plus b minus c divided by minus 2 is equal to b over 5. Now if I divide by b and multiply by minus 2 on both the sides, what I'll get is I'll get a plus b minus c divided by b is equal to minus 2 by 5. And that is the required answer in this case. This is the direct application of how you can apply the theorem of equal ratios, and this is how I can solve this problem. I hope you understand this small but informative video on the ratio, proportion and variation. If you are liking the videos that we upload, please subscribe and share as much as possible. Do let us know in the comment section which other videos you would like to see and which other content would you like to study with Ed Sharpener. Coming to the word of the day. The word of the day is holograph. Probably many of you know this word, but for the ones who don't know, the holograph is nothing but a handwritten manuscript, preferably written by the author themselves. Let's use the word. Holographs by famous people are collectibles and are also kept in museums. So this is how you can also use this word. I hope you are enjoying the videos by Ed Sharpener. Please share this video as much as possible and please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you soon with another video. Till then, ज्ञान पीते रहिए.